Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Women Like Me Stories in Business. I'm your host, Julie Fairhurst. Today, I'm here with Terri M Brown. Now, I'm excited to get into this lady's story. She's actually done a few really super interesting things. So let's get in. So, Terri M. Brown is an author. She's a podcaster and a speaker from North Carolina. Her story is one of courage, adventure, reinvention, and reclaiming life after an abusive marriage. After riding across the United States on a tandem bicycle in 2020, Terri finished that journey with a powerful realization that if she could do that, she could do anything. So today we're going to talk about what it means to survive abuse, rediscover your strength, take on an adventure that changes how you see yourself, and step into a new identity later in life. Terri, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be with you today.
Oh, good. Okay, so let's start off by you telling us a little bit about yourself and the work that you're doing today.
Yeah, so you kind of covered it. I'm an author. I started writing for small businesses in 2000. That's kind of
Oh,
where I started. I was a homemaker. I have four children. I wanted to be able to be home with them, writing for small businesses who were just getting on the internet. You have to remember in 2000, the internet was like this new thing, and
yeah.
small businesses were busy getting out there for the first time, and they were doing it very poorly. And so there were all kinds of really bad websites out there. And I realized, hey, this is something that I could do, and I could do this from home. So I started doing that. And I desperately, desperately wanted to be an author. I wanted to write novels, but I was in a very bad relationship. I was in an abusive
Mhm.
relationship, and you just don't put your soul out to the world when you don't have any safe spaces. And so in my home,
Mhm.
it wasn't a safe space. And so there was no way I was going to say, hey, here's the inside thoughts of my mind, and then have someone out in the world say to me, I didn't like it. Because I was already getting that at home, right? I didn't need more of that.
Yeah.
So in 2017, I got out of that relationship and words started pouring out of me. But it wasn't until I went on that ride that you talked about across the United States that I realized I really could become an author. And 14 months after that ride, my first novel came out. That was in
Oh,
22. And so in 22, my first novel came out. And then I've had a novel or a book a year since then. So I now
good
have
for
four
you.
novels and a memoir, and I even have a children's book out now. So
Wow, good for you. Wow, that's amazing. What were you doing for the businesses back in 2000? Were you just trying to like rewrite their copy so that it was
yes,
more
I did a lot of um, internet copy rewriting. I did a lot of small booklets. I did a lot with real estate agents, and they wanted things that they
ah,
could hand to their clients, like 10 things you need to do before buying your first home, that kind of thing.
yes.
And I was good at that. I'm good at research, and I'm good at finding those nuggets and putting them in a nice, neat way that's readable. And so I had a lot of business that way. It was really a good thing for me at the time because, like I said, I was a stay-at-home mom, and I wanted
Yeah,
to be. It's very
yes.
much what I wanted to do, was be home with my children, and it gave me that income. It also, without me realizing it, gave me a way to get out of a bad relationship later,
Yes. Yeah.
right? Because I had something to, but I didn't at the time that I started it. I certainly wasn't thinking to myself, "Oh, this is how I'll get out of this bad marriage." I mean, that wasn't it. But
Right.
yeah.
Right. Wow, that's so interesting. So before becoming an author, what did your life look like?
So are we talking before I became a fiction author? Is that what you're saying? Like in 22?
Yeah.
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 So, you know, yes, I lived in an emotionally abusive relationship for 14 years, and
Mm.
that wasn't pretty. On the other hand, not everything about my life was terrible. I have four wonderful children. We have a very good relationship. But when I got out of that relationship in 17, the first thing I did was move to the beach. I have wanted to live at the beach my entire adult life. And I thought, what is stopping me at this point? My children were all grown. My youngest graduated from high school at almost the exact same time that I got out of that marriage. And it was like, what is keeping me here? Nothing. I want to be at the beach. And so I headed to the beach. Very shortly after I got there, I found out that my oldest child was, he and his wife were having a baby. And so I
Oh,
knew I was going to be a grandma. And so all of the things were really kind of going my way. But I was also very damaged. You don't live
mm,
in an emotionally abusive relationship for 14 years and come out of that a
mhm.
whole individual. You can get out of the relationship, but there's still a lot of things that have to happen. So I was writing. I was still writing for small businesses. That's how I was keeping myself afloat. And
Yeah.
I started writing manuscripts, most of which are terrible and will never see the light of day, but that's how you get started, right?
That is,
And
yes.
but I wasn't showing them to anyone because I didn't believe in myself at all. So I think I was kind of going through the motions of life. But
Yeah.
I had gotten to the point where I didn't think I really had anything of value to provide to people anymore. And I kind
Mhm.
of thought my life was over. Like, that's it. That's all she wrote. And that's a shame because I was 53 years old and I thought I was done. I imagined that I would be a wonderful grandmother who got to hold and snuggle her grandchildren. And other than that, there would be nothing that came from me.
Yeah,
So,
I think there's so many of us who feel that way. And there's gifts. As we age, there's some pretty darn good gifts that we have that we can offer. We just need to know how to package them, put them together. But it's amazing that you had that light that said, "Wait a minute, my life's not over."
well, it's interesting. I had a friend, it's actually my son's friend, was walking on the Appalachian Trail at the same time I was leaving this bad marriage. And I started reading his blogs like a drowning woman. I don't know what it was about it, but
Oh,
I was reading that and I kept thinking, I want to do something like that. I want to do something big and bold because maybe I'm not done. Maybe I can prove to the world. Well, the world wasn't doubting me. It was me doubting me, but I didn't know that.
yes,
And I felt like
yes,
I needed to like somehow do something to prove something. Well,
yes,
Bruce kind of waltzed into my life. He became my husband. I was never, ever, ever getting married again. I was done with that. I was not
yes.
doing that anymore. He tells people that he chased me until I caught him.
Oh,
So I think that what that means is he just kept being there until I finally kind of got used to the fact that he was around and that he really
yes,
was who he said he was because I didn't trust myself in picking and I
yes,
didn't trust him because he would
yes.
say, well, this is who I am. And it's like, yeah, I've heard that before. Like,
Yeah.
I don't, your words mean nothing to me. So
Yes.
while we were, I can't even call it dating because I wouldn't call it dating. I'm not dating you because dating leads to things and we're not doing, like we can be buddies. That's about the
Yeah.
extent that we're going to get here. But he said, I've always wanted to ride across the United States on a bicycle. And I thought,
Mm,
well, now that would be an adventure, especially for someone like me. At the time, I was 70 pounds heavier than I am right now. I I hadn't been on a bicycle in 40 years. I'm not athletic in any way. And still to this day, I'm not an athletic woman. I mean, that is
yeah.
not where my strengths lie. And I
Yeah.
thought if I could do that, maybe then I would be able to prove that I still had something of value to add. So I asked him, are you going to talk about it forever or are you going to do it? And he said, no, I want to do it. And I had no intention of marrying him, but I thought, yeah, we can do this together. And so
Wow.
I said, count me in. Now, as it
Wow.
turns out, he wore me down. We did get married, and we were married when we went on the trip. But at the time that
Oh,
I said
yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
I was never getting married again.
Wow.
And so then we started training. And you have to
Yeah.
remember, I haven't been on a bicycle in 40 years. This is not
Wow.
Terri doing Terri. This was way outside of my comfort zone. I
Wow.
didn't even own the right shoes. I didn't own the right clothes. I couldn't. My Our first 10-mile bicycle ride nearly did me in.
I
Like
bet.
it was hard. It was very
Yeah.
difficult. But I wanted it. I wanted it badly. And so we ended up going. And it was at the end of that ride that I really did. I
Yeah.
said, you know what? I, Terri, me, non-athletic me, just rode across the United States on a bicycle. If I can do that, I can literally do anything I put my mind
Wow.
to. So what is it I want?
Yes.
Because it
Yeah.
isn't a matter of can I do it, but what do I want
Yes.
to put my
Yeah.
energy into? And I said, I want to be an author.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, let's go back to the bike
Yeah.
for a bit because I do
Okay.
just want to find out a little bit more. So, was it physically, mentally, emotionally? Like how was it enlightening? Was it difficult? What was that experience like for you?
Everything about that trip was hard for me. Physically,
Mhm.
it was grueling. There were days that I thought I can't move my legs around in a circle anymore, and we still have 4 miles to go. Like
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't sit on this seat one moment longer. The number of times that I cried, it would just be hard for you to understand how many times I cried. But each time I cried, I would then get back on the bicycle and say, okay, let's go. Like there's only one way to get past this, and that's to keep moving. We
Yeah.
can't stop here. So it was very physically hard, but it was also very emotionally challenging for me. First of all, I'm doing very things that are very difficult for me, and I don't believe in myself. So there was a lot of,
Mm.
I don't think I can, because I didn't think I could. And
Yeah.
so getting past that mindset.
Yes.
Um, I also have a really, really tough time with a world that doesn't go as I have planned it. So I like lists and I like plans and I like to know how my day's going to go. And
Yes.
riding a bicycle across the United States during 2020, so during COVID, nothing goes as planned.
No. Well,
Okay.
what did the road teach you about yourself?
I think it really did teach me that I have more in me than I believed I did. Like
Mm,
like I'm capable. I'm very capable that when there's a problem, I can figure out how to solve it. When
yeah.
things are tough, I don't have to collapse in a heap and not move forward. But it's
Yeah.
and I think the other thing I learned about me that has been very valuable is I am an emotional person. I have big emotions. I laugh really hard and I cry really hard, like wide breadth. And sometimes I just need a good cry. And it doesn't make me a weak person. It
No.
just means that I have a ton of emotion. I need to get that out and out of the way so that I can then use the logical part of my brain to say, now what do we do? And
Yes.
so I
Yeah.
think I spent most of my life thinking I was too much, too emotional,
Mm,
too. And I
yes.
came to realize, no, I'm not too emotional. I'm just emotional.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's okay. That
Yes.
is who I am. And
Yeah.
some people are not this emotional. That's okay too.
Yes.
And I think that that was one of the lessons about me personally.
Yeah.
That and that I really didn't have to be someone else. That everything that I need is down inside of me. It's just a matter of
Yeah.
uncovering it. It's been covered up by a bunch of junk, and I just need
Yes.
to
Yeah.
find it again. Yeah.
Well, what did it feel like when you finished?
It's so hard to explain. I was laughing and crying. So my husband says, "Do you see that flag up there?" I said, "Yes." He said, "That's where we're stopping." And I started to laugh and cry at the same time. I couldn't even, and I couldn't fathom that we had done it.
Yeah.
Because really, when you ride, we rode for a little over 3 months, and you ride not every day, but most every day. And it's the day that you're focused on. So on Tuesday, you ride Tuesday. On Wednesday, you're not thinking about Tuesday anymore, and you're not thinking about Thursday. You're riding Wednesday. At the end of Wednesday, you put Wednesday away. Now you're riding Thursday. At the end of all of that, you've ridden across the
Ah,
United States. And it was hard for me in my mind to put them all together
yeah.
so that it made sense. Like I knew I had done it. I had all of the memories, I have all of the pictures, I had all
Yeah.
of my blog posts, but in my mind it was like, but we just rode those days. And somehow all of those days added
Mm.
up to riding across the United States. Like it
Well,
was
it
a
may
very weird
Yeah, but
feeling.
I can see because it was you chopped it down into
Yes.
bite-sized or bike
Yes.
size pieces,
Yes.
right? Yeah. Well, what do
And
you think?
so at the
And
end, trying to figure out how to
yes,
put
oh
them all
yeah.
back together was just like a crazy sensation. It was
Oh,
like, wow, we really did it.
yeah.
We really made it all the way across. And then then at the very end, so now we're done. And you wake up the next day and you don't know what to do with yourself. Because
Mm,
for all of these days, you've known exactly what you were going to do. You're going to get up, you're going to pack everything up, you're going to get on the bike, you're going to ride until you can't, you're going to unpack everything, you're going to go to bed, you're going to get up. And then all of a sudden, it's like, okay, we're done with that. Oh, now
yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Now what?
Yes. Well, why do you think that an adventure can be a really powerful way for people to heal?
Because you get outside of that comfort zone. I
Mm,
think we all put ourselves into a box in which
yeah.
we believe that we need to function, and the only way we know how to function and the only way we can function. And we don't stretch, we don't give ourselves the chance to explore. And when you go on an adventure, if it's truly an adventure, you are
Yes.
stretching yourself. You're
Yes.
way outside of your comfort zone. You're doing things you never thought possible. You're doing things other people say to you, oh, I could never do that. And when you're doing that and then successful, I think that it does kind of help you realize those things I was told about not being good enough, about not being strong enough, about not being capable, that doesn't really square with what's happening here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I just rode 3,102 miles. How does someone who's incapable, who's not strong, who can't problem solve, who will never do anything in her life, how does that square with this?
Yeah. So what would you say to any woman, because most of my audience is women, what would you say to women that are listening right now and they're like, well, there's stuff I want to do, but I'm too scared or I'm too old or I'm not enough to do it.
Right. I think the first thing is to get rid of those twos. You're not too
Mm,
old, you're not too scared, you're not too dumb, you're not too fat, you're not too whatever it is. You're
yeah,
not. Okay,
yeah,
first of all, that. And then I think the second thing is look at what you want. Do you really want it? Because if you don't really want it, anything can stop you. Right? If I
mm,
didn't really want to make it across the United States, I can give you 150 places where I could have stopped
yes,
and would have stopped, but I wanted it. So just make sure that whatever it is that you're kind of looking toward, it's something you want. It's not something someone else told you you should want, but that it's
yes,
something you really want. And if the answer to that is yes, this is really what I want, then my advice is find one thing you can do today to work toward that.
mm,
And maybe
yeah,
it'll take you a year, maybe it'll take you 7 years.
yes,
But one thing that you can do today, and then tomorrow, do that again.
yeah,
And maybe it's nothing more than looking up one quote that you're going to paste on your bathroom mirror, and that's what's going to get you started. Like whatever that thing is,
yeah,
start it in your mind. Start telling yourself, I am working toward insert goal.
yes, yeah, for
That's what
sure.
I am doing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to ask you now about becoming an author. So did you so why writing? Did you know that you wanted to write? Like what was it? What was the first thing you wrote? Sorry, I
Yeah.
have
So
like five
yeah, no, I
questions in
know.
there.
Like what? I think for me, I have always loved books. And I, as a little girl, said I wanted to be an author, but I don't think I really knew what that meant. I also wanted to be an Olympic ice skater, and I'm the klutziest person you've ever met. So I don't think I really knew, but I've always loved books. And when I started writing for small businesses, there was something very, I don't know, kind of magical about getting the words on the page and having the person that I wrote them for, send me an email that says, "Oh, this is exactly what we needed or exactly what we were looking for." And I don't know, I wanted to do fiction. I really wanted to try my hand at a book,
Yeah.
like because I love to read. I read 80 books a year easily. And
Yeah.
so it's like I wanted to do that. So I think that was part of it. And prior to going on the ride, I had written some manuscripts. They weren't very good, but I had been trying my hand. I just wasn't willing to let anyone know because I didn't believe
Ah,
in myself. Right.
right.
And so if anyone had said to me, "Are you an author?" the answer would have been, "Oh, no, not at all. Like, no, I'm dabbling." Right. I would have
Ah,
never
interesting.
Yes, I
Yes.
would have never admitted
Yes.
to
Yes.
actually having any manuscripts or any desire to be more because I didn't think I could ever be or would ever be. And why put that out into the world so that then people can point at you later and say, "Well, I thought you said you wanted to be an author. Seems like you never made that either." I just didn't need
Mm,
that in my life.
no.
And so I didn't tell anyone. I
Yeah.
shouldn't say
Yeah.
anyone. I have a daughter that knew uh, Bruce that I was dating and became my husband. He
Yeah.
knew, but I was not announcing it. I wasn't putting it out on my social
Right.
media and telling people what I was doing because
Yeah.
I didn't feel like that's who I was.
Yeah.
But
But
after
you
this ride,
but you did it.
yes, so after the ride though, when I said, okay, so it's not a matter of can I do something, it's a matter of what do I want to do. I said, "What do you want to do, Terry?" And it was so clear. It was like, I want to be an author. And so the answer in my head was kind of like, well, then do it. Then do it. So I
And what
took a
yeah.
manuscript that I had written, okay, that wasn't very good. I mean, it was okay. It was
Yeah.
probably the best one I had to date, but it still was eh. And I started doing what no person should do, which was submitting it long before it was ready to be submitted. And luckily, I submitted it to someone who saw something in it, got me a good editor, and 14 months later, I have my first book out.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I think that part was a little bit of luck, but not really. It was luck I made myself because I put myself out there.
Well, you have, yeah, exactly.
You know,
Exactly. Yes.
no one would have found me accidentally. I was definitely putting myself out there, but I
Yeah.
think that I
Yeah.
was very blessed. Let's use that
Yeah.
word in that someone looked and said, "I think with some editing, with some guidance, that this manuscript can be something." And that
That's
first book that
beautiful.
Yeah, that first book was called Sunflowers Beneath the Snow. It is
Oh,
about three generations of Ukrainian women, and it came out 1 month before the current Ukrainian crisis. And yeah, and because of that, it gave me, it gave it some legs. Like it's fiction, but it's historical fiction. And it has
yes.
a lot of history that helped people kind of understand what's happening now
Yeah.
because you could see what happened earlier. And it won awards. And, it didn't make me famous, nothing like that, but it gave me, I don't know, the ability, I got rid of the fear and I said, well, if I
Yes.
did it once, I can do it twice.
Exactly.
And so I
Yeah.
wrote the next one and then I wrote the next one
Yeah.
and then I and so that's kind of
Yeah.
where it is right now is I write, I finish up one and I start the next one.
Yeah. Well, what has writing taught you about healing?
I think for me, I watched what my characters do. I think a lot of things that I wish about myself, like I wish I had done that earlier. I wish I had never done that. I wish that you can play that in your characters. And
Yes.
it gives me a chance to kind of, I don't know, role play out possibilities,
Yeah.
see things to an end, like if I had done this, where might it have gone? You
Mhm.
know. Um, and I think writing it just helps me look at the world in a way that it isn't me. I can stand back now and kind of look at it. And I think that's the way people read sometimes too. You read a book, you get to
Yeah.
experience life in a way that you wouldn't otherwise. You get
Yes.
to see what it might be like if, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and all of those things I think are just very valuable in healing, in figuring out who you are, what do you believe,
Yes.
because sometimes you don't know anymore. Especially if you've lived in an emotionally abusive relationship for 14 years, you're not sure what you believe because
Yeah.
you didn't have your own thoughts. You had to keep those to
Yes.
yourself.
Yeah, for
And so
sure.
now you have to figure that all out again. And for
Yeah.
me, I think writing did that. It allowed me to like experiment with well, what would it be like if I were this way? And what would it be like if I were this
Yeah.
way? And what would
Yeah.
it have been like if I had been younger and decided that I could travel? Like I
Mm.
often give
Yeah.
my characters less fear
Yes.
than I lived with,
Yeah. Yeah.
like someone who's braver than me. And like, what would that have
Yeah.
looked like? You know?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what advice would you give to someone who wants to write, but they're sitting there thinking, well, I'm not a writer. Who am I to
Right.
do something like this?
Yeah, the first thing is very similar to what I said about, like starting a new goal. And that's you've got to start. You
Yeah.
have to start writing. You'll never become a writer by reading about it. You'll never become a writer by thinking about it. You'll never become a writer even taking a course in it. You only
Yeah.
become a writer by actually writing. And the first thing that you write is going to stink, and it's okay. Like it's
Yes.
fine because
Yeah.
how are you supposed to get better at it before you've written something so you know where the baseline is? And
Yeah.
so, plan on writing and then writing again and writing some more. And then the second thing I say is once you have something that you feel is passable. I don't mean perfect, but you say to yourself, it's
Yeah.
not bad.
Yeah.
It's okay. Now find yourself a good writing partner who is both kind and honest. So
Mm.
someone who can say to you, I really like this about your writing. This is a little weak. And I kind of like this here. I'm not sure what this is. Someone who will give you
Yeah.
honest critique, but isn't someone who just says, that's crap, because that isn't
Oh,
helpful. Right.
that is not helpful.
Right.
No,
And so
not
you
at
you
all.
want someone who can be honest and kind, and
Yes.
then take what they said and go write some more.
Yeah. So you
You
said
know,
in the beginning, how many books have you published so far?
I have 4 novels, a memoir, and a children's book.
So how do you decide what story needs to be told next?
It's whatever is the one in my head that's the loudest.
Oh,
So I have a lot of ideas and I write them all down. I have a whole list
yep.
of ideas. But usually, as I'm finishing up one book, before I can really get it complete, there is another story sitting there that's yelling. It's screaming, I'm next, I'm next, I'm next. And it's like, okay, I hear you. Hush and let me finish this one. I can't write two at the same time.
Yeah.
And when I'm done with that story, usually that next one is like, oh, good, is it my turn? And it's the next one out. So it's usually the loud one.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's I love that. I love it. So if somebody's in a has been or is in a toxic, abusive relationship, how do they begin to rebuild who they are?
You know, I think the first thing is if you're still in the relationship, remember that there's light on the other side of this, that this is a bad
Yeah.
thing happening, but it doesn't have to define you forever. It may be
Yeah.
kind of defining you at the moment, but it doesn't have a forever quality if you don't want it to. I think the other thing is to remember that you are enough. You do have everything you need. You don't
Mhm.
have to be someone else. You don't have to, you are enough, but it's a matter of can you find it again? And if you
Mm.
can't, there are people around who can help. There are counselors, there are pastors, there are friends, there's family, there are books, there are ways of discovering those pieces of you that are missing, and be
Mm.
willing to kind of open yourself up to these other avenues to kind of start learning. Before I got out of the bad relationship, I actually had sought a counselor for myself, and I thought I was going because I was angry all the time. I felt angry all the time and I felt I had an anger
Ah,
problem. Well, I did have an
oh,
anger problem, but I was angry for like justifiable reasons. I needed to be out of this really bad relationship, but I'm not ready to do that yet. And I'm not ready for anyone to tell me that, because if she had told me, get out of this relationship, I would have gotten rid of her as a counselor. But she started helping me work on the other aspects of me. And she said, when people come in and they're not in a great relationship, or are having problems in areas, they can still lead happy, productive lives because there's more to you than one area. There's family,
Yes.
there's friends, there's work, there's
Mm.
spirituality, there's, and she lists this whole thing. And she said, how do you feel like you're doing in all of these other areas? And it was like, well, not really great, because I'm putting all of my energy here and it's not
Mhm.
helping. And she said, well, what if we start putting some energy into these other spaces? Right. So I started fixing some of these other spaces within me, not to the point that I was, healed, but when it
Yes.
came time to get out of the relationship, I had started to have a friend network again. I had
Mm.
started some of my family relationships beyond my children. I was starting to reach out and build again. Do you know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
was reaching out beyond myself, so that when I left, I now had this. It was a very basic little piece of groundwork, but it was there. And I had
Yes.
something to build on and move on. So I
Yeah.
mean, that would be the other thing is, look at
Yeah.
other aspects of your life. What can you work on,
Mhm.
even if you're in a bad relationship?
Yeah. Well, what does freedom mean to you now?
Oh, I think, yeah, freedom for me is knowing that I can do what I feel is best for me, and I don't have to be afraid of the consequences of that. And
Yeah.
I think freedom for me is also knowing that I can do what I feel is best for me and be wrong and change my mind, and I don't
Mm.
have anyone pointing a finger at me and telling me, you were wrong again. See,
Yeah.
you're a failure. Because it's
Yeah.
it's okay to think that you know what you need, figure out you don't need it, and change course. There is nothing wrong with that. And
No,
so
there's not.
freedom, right? Freedom for me is being able to do
Mm.
those things without the fear of someone else pushing it down my throat, or being angry that I'm exploring or trying or whatever.
Yeah. Well, how do you handle fear now when it shows up?
I'm still working on that one. It's amazing. It kind of is cyclical, where you think, oh, I'm fine, I've got it all figured out, and then all of a sudden it shows back up in your life again, and you're like, well, where is this coming from?
Yeah.
For me, the thing that I have found that works is if I can recognize it for what it is. This is fear.
Yeah.
Fear is usually your body's way of trying to tell you something. What is my body trying to tell me? And
Hmm.
sometimes it's, yeah, this is misplaced fear. This is old stuff bubbling up out of the swamp. And all I have to do is recognize it and say, that's fear that I don't need anymore.
Yes.
And then I seem to be okay. Sometimes it's okay, there is something here. What is it? So that I can start working on that.
Yes.
What
Yeah.
is this thing? Why is my body responding this way to this
Mm.
kind of thing, whatever it is? And
Yeah.
let's work on that,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I don't want to be stopped here. This
Mhm.
isn't what I want,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's not, I don't feel like getting over anxiety and fear is necessarily a one and done kind of thing. You think you've got it under control, and then it pops its ugly head up somewhere else, and you're like, whoa, what are you doing over here? I thought I fixed you. So
Yeah. What has being a podcaster and a speaker opened up for you?
community.
Mm.
And for so many years in an
Mm.
emotionally abusive relationship, I cut myself off from people, partially
Yeah.
because I knew that this relationship wasn't good, but I didn't know how to get out of it. And I didn't want people to see it. I didn't want people to judge me. I didn't, I don't know. I just kind of cut myself off. He also did a really good job of cutting me off as well, but I became very isolated. And even when I started writing again, at first I was still very isolated. I didn't have a community of writers. I didn't have any of that. Well, since I have a podcast, it's called Online for Authors. I talk to other authors who are independent authors like myself. And I now have I've had over 200 authors on my show, and I can reach out to them. When they reach out to me, they'll say, hey, I've got a new book. I'd like you to do, or could you, or what? And I can
Yeah.
now do that. And that community, oh, is amazing, because for years I didn't think I could make friends anymore. I really felt like I don't know, that there was something, wrong with me personality wise, that I just
Yeah.
couldn't make friends. And it isn't true. Right.
Yes.
And so having this community again, these people that I know I could reach out to, that has been positively amazing. I also love helping people. So having
Hmm.
a platform where other authors like me who are young in the author world, I'm not young, but I'm young in the author world, right?
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
who are trying to figure out like how to get the word out about their book,
Hmm.
for me to have a place for them, it
Hmm.
allows me to kind of fulfill that need to serve, and
Yes.
it feels really good. There's just
Yeah.
something really wonderful about getting an email from someone who thanks you from the bottom of their heart for having you on their podcast, and you're thinking, you've helped me as much as I've helped you, but it
Yeah.
feels really good. So
Yes,
I think
for
that's, for me,
sure.
it's a community thing.
Yeah. What is one small brave step someone could take today?
Oh, I think it's so dependent on where they're stuck. But
Mm.
a brave step, I think the bravest step is looking at that thing that you want and making a decision that that's the thing that you want. Does
I
that make
love
sense?
that.
Like
Yes.
what's
Yes.
the bravest thing you can do? The
Yeah.
bravest thing you can do is admit it.
Hmm.
That is what I want. I want
Hmm.
to be an author. I want to, start my own business. I want to, whatever, fill in the
Yeah.
blank. I want to get out of this relationship. I want to travel the world. I want to, learn to flamenco dance. I mean, whatever that is, right?
Whatever
Yeah.
that is.
Yeah. I mean,
Yes.
I think
Yeah. Yeah.
admitting it is really brave. And if you want to be even
Mm.
braver, admit it to yourself and someone else.
Ah, yeah.
Let it out of your own head.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. I love that. So how can people find your books, your podcasts, your speaking work?
The best thing is to go to my website. And so it's my name, Terri M Brown, TERIM Brown.com. There you will find everything, all my books, my podcasts. Um,
Perfect.
you can sign up for a newsletter. You can everything. My social media icons are there. I even have just a contact me page if you just wanted to reach out with a question. And I do my
Oh,
very best to get back to everyone who reaches out to me.
oh, perfect. Well, we will have that information in the show notes so
Fantastic.
that people are able to reach out to you. So I just want to close with one last question.
Yeah.
What legacy do you hope to leave through your writing and your story?
I think that I want people to realize that life is only over when you say it's over. Like,
Mm.
like you don't, life isn't over at 60. It's not over at 70. It's not over at 80 unless you want it to be. I mean, if
Mhm.
you're ready to sit on the front porch and knit, and that's what life is for you, then good. But if you don't want to, you don't have to. That's what I hope. And I hope that my daughters really hear that whatever they're doing now doesn't have to define their whole life. If you want to be a homemaker now, but you want to be an entrepreneur later, go for it. If you want to, like, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be over because you hit a certain age, right?
Yes.
Like 50 doesn't mean anything. 60, these are numbers.
Yep.
These are just
Yeah.
numbers. I hope
Yeah.
that the day that I die, that I have been running around with my hair on fire, still doing things right up until the last moment. Do you know what I'm saying?
I
That's what I
do.
want.
I do
I
know.
so
Mm.
that's what I want. I like on my tombstone, I want something like, she lived life to the fullest.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Well, Terry, I have enjoyed this conversation so much, and I just we've touched on so many things, but I think you really you've given a lot of inspiration. A lot of my audience is m more mature women, and a lot of them are scared.
Yeah.
They maybe don't want to step out, or maybe they're not in an abusive relationship, but the kids have moved out, or
Yeah, and
they
you don't
gave
know
up.
what to do next.
Oh,
Right.
exactly. Yeah. So I think you've you've helped to get a few little things stirring for people in there. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that. And I love
Thank
that
you.
picture behind you of you
So
and
the
your
picture
hubby.
that's the cover of the book, 10 Little Rules for a Double-Butted Adventure. And those are life lessons I learned while on this trip.
Oh my
And
goodness.
yeah, and so like seriously, what can people do? Grab the book, seriously, because
Yes.
these are lessons that I learned about life, about living a little more adventurously, living a little more outside the box.
Yes.
Yes, it has a lot of cycling stories, but it isn't really about the cycling journey. It's about my journey back
Yes.
from this mess of a person to saying I can be an author.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, I got shivers. I love it. Love it. Okay, everybody, we're going to have all of the information to reach out to Terri in the show notes so you'll be able to find her and find her easily. Terri, thank you so much for being willing to do this. I've appreciated you. I've loved this conversation. So, yeah, just thank you so much for doing everything that you're doing to help authors.
Thank you for having me. This has been wonderful. I've loved the conversation.
Oh, so have I. Okay, everybody, take care. We'll see you on another episode. Bye bye.